Hey guys, recently I did a video on ranking the attackers in Rainbow Six Siege, and so today we're going to do a video ranking the defenders. And again, like the attackers, it's just my opinion. If you think one of these operators is really good, that's totally fine. You think what you want, I'll think what I want, it's all good. But let's get into the first one. Alright guys, so the first one on the list is Chaka. You know, Chaka's been in the game since day one. He's a walking meme. His guns aren't the best, they're not terrible. His submachine gun is steady but has a really low damage output. His gadget, while it has a shield now, unlike this is how it used to look when the game launched, has a shield now which helps it a little bit, but it's just so big and so open. It's so easy to get killed while using his gadget. I still don't think it's a viable option to use, and that's why he's at the bottom of the list. Alright guys, next on the list is Vigil. Why I put him so low? While his gun isn't terrible, it's actually, I hear it's one of the better guns on defense, and I don't mess around with his shotgun, but that looks amazing as far as shotguns go. But the thing with him is just his gadget. I don't think his gadget is in the slightest bit useful. It turns you invisible to drones, yes, but you get the little white things, the little white markers on your drone if you're close to him. So sometimes you can be on like the floor below or the floor above and you can see the white markers. Sometimes you, just because of him, you know it's Vigil even earlier than you would have known if it wasn't Vigil. So I think his gadget hurts him even more than it helps him. That's kind of why I put him low. His guns are okay and his gadget is pretty much completely useless if it doesn't impact him negatively. Next up, I put Alibi, mainly because her guns aren't great. They're okay. They have really low range out of the SMGs compared to some of the other ones. And her gadget, while probably the first 3 weeks she was out, I would say her gadget was great. It was one of the better defending gadgets, but now it's so uncommon. Unless you have some really amazing placements, it's so uncommon that somebody shoots one of your alibis, and everyone's kind of learned the tricks to get around the alibis and to not get detected by her. And I think that's one of the reasons that brings her down, is just while her guns are okay, especially some of her pistols, her gadget kind of just brings her, people have learned how it works now, and so they don't fall for it as much as they used to. Next up on my list is Clash, and Clash was kind of hard to place because if you find a good Clash, it's like Montaigne or any other shield. If you find a good Clash, she's really useful because her pistol is really good, along with her SMG is actually pretty solid. But the shield itself, I don't run into a lot of Clashes. Very rarely do I even see a Clash, but her shield itself, the shocking's okay. I don't find it strong enough to justify it being a gadget. I feel like it's more of a side ability than to the shield. But I feel like she's one of the, especially since she's on defense, she's really easy to get around. It's, you know, it's easier to use ranks on offense. Use your ranks on offense to kind of flank her and get around her, get different angles whenever you're pushing her. And that kind of what makes her weaker, is out of all the shield ops in the game, I feel like she's one of the easiest ones to kind of maneuver around and kill. So that kind of concludes the list of the bad operators. Like I said in my attackers video, those are the operators I probably wouldn't pick no matter what. And this starts the neutral, or I guess just okay operators. These are the ops where if all of my mains are taken, these are the ones I'm going to pick. And you can see my first one here is Echo, and the reason I pick Echo, even though his suppressed MP5 is a solid gun, especially with the ACOG on it, it's a great gun. Echo, I feel like his gadget gets you killed too much. I feel like, you know, you can sit on that drone for the whole round and kind of be playing a roamable camera, which is great, but also, you know, if you don't have your teammates in your room, if a lot of your teammates are roamers, you can have just a fuse hit you and you're dead. You could have they breach a wall you don't even know about because your teammates aren't communicating with you, and then you're just dead as Echo because you were on your drone trying to help out the rest of the team. So I think kind of, while his gadget's good and his guns are good, that's why I kind of placed him in the bottom of this category. Alright guys, next on the list is Castle. I know a lot of this community think Castle kind of sucks, but I have a friend who's been playing Castle since day one, and if you use Castle right, especially with a friend playing Castle, it actually helps a lot. And while I think the shotgun is kind of weak, the ump is a good gun. I'm not a fan of the ump, but a lot of people do like this ump. And then his pistols, the 45 is a good gun. The 5.7 I wouldn't mess with. If you have bad accuracy, that's what I would go with. The bulletproof camera, I think, is great for defenders. I think that really gives them a lot of opportunity, but the impact grenade does help with flanking routes. But his gadget, if you place it right, now obviously you don't want to cut off all circulation to the room, but just cutting off certain like sections of the map to keep people out can really help with Castle. And while I don't play him, I think if you're a good Castle and you actually know what you're doing, you can really help your team out. That's why I put him kind of around the middle of the list. Alright guys, next on the list is Kapkan, and he's kind of been all over the place. We've been over these the guns before. Not a fan of this shotgun. This gun has low recoil and low damage, so it's not the best. Hate the Russian pistols, not a fan of either of these. And Nitro Cell, definitely a way to go on Kapkan, but with his, let's see if they have his gadget down here. No, they don't. With his gadget, they've changed it a lot since it used to be insta-kill. You walked on it, doesn't matter who you are, it killed you. Now it has different damages based off of the speed. It can do 40, 50, or 60 based off the speed and armor of the operator. And you have 5 of them now, and the laser is invisible, so you gotta factor that in. And they load him to a 2-speed. But I think all around, just the time it takes to get those 5 Kapkans up, plus the 2 reinforcements you gotta put up, it's stressful to play Kapkan at the beginning of the round, and just your Kapkans are so situational. When people see you're playing Kapkan, most of the time they're gonna check everything, every wall window for those Kapkans. So you really gotta be careful with your placements. You gotta place them places people aren't gonna expect it. I think that's why I put him here, is just because he's kind of hard to learn good placements for his gadget, and his guns aren't too great. So next on the list we have Bandit, and Bandit's kind of been another one of those operators that's kind of all over the place. His MP7 used to be great with the ACOG. His shotgun's really good too, but his MP7 used to be great with the ACOG, but since they took that away, it's alright. I wouldn't say it's terrible, but it's definitely nowhere near where it used to be. P12 is a solid pistol. You gotta run the barbed wire on Bandit so you can get that shock wire down. And before Kai came into the game, I would have put him higher on this list. But Kai does his same ability, but can cover more ground and use less gadgets. So I think that's the only reason he's lower. It's just because Kai does his gadget better, and his gun has been nerfed recently. So that's what puts him here on the list. So next on this list, I put Doc, and I was struggling where to put Doc on the list and Rook. You know, they're both very similar, have the same guns, didn't really know what to do with them. And I think I put Doc lower just because it requires the player to be alive. Doc, if you get killed in the beginning of the round, that's it. Doc's ability was wasted. Whereas with Rook, who's obviously higher on the list, he places down at the beginning of the round, his gadget's good. You're all good. Everyone got the gadget, you did your job. Now, as far as his guns go, his MP5, he does have an ACOG, so that's a big plus for him. That's kind of why I put him still higher on the list. But his MP5 is okay. It's not great. His P90, I wouldn't even call that a gun. Don't use that. The shotgun, not a fan of the shotgun. They don't have the gun chip, do they? No. The pistol's pretty good. And the thing with Doc is he's changed so much. I mean, back when he launched, I don't even think he could heal teammates. All I think he could do was revive teammates and revive himself, and I think that was it. He couldn't even heal himself, I think, back when the game first launched. So they definitely made him better, which is why he's higher than he would have been back in year 1, but he's still not top of the list. Alright, so we just talked about this. This is Kaid. His guns are good. This AUG is great. The shotgun is alright. Just like in the attackers video, I talked about this this pistol right here that Nomad has, a good pistol, and his kind of the secondary gadgets, these first two, the impact and the barbed wire. With him, probably get away with barbed wire would actually be pretty helpful on Kaid. Impacts are always helpful too, but his gadget, why he's higher than Bandit, I already talked about, but just to go over it again, these cover, if you watch this video right here, they just cover so much more ground than the individual bandits, and you can do stuff like this and electrify the shield and the barbed wire without having to actually place the bandit down. See, that would have took probably 3 bandits charges, whereas with Kaid you can do all of that with just 1 charge. So I think it makes him more of a versatile operator all around, which I think is why he's where he is on this list. So with Kaid, that concludes our okay section. This is moving on to the good operators. The ones on the lower half of this list are gonna be the ones I consider good, but don't really main, whereas the ones in the top are the ones that I consider good and that I main, the ones that are my go-to picks on defense. So at the bottom of this category is going to be Smoke. And my problem with Smoke is his guns. While his gadget is great, it's great for area denial, his guns though, his shotgun's good, like I said in the attackers video. The shotgun is the best shotgun in the game in my opinion, but just his SMGs, I don't fuck around with those SMGs. Those SMGs are so rough in my opinion. I think that's why he's lower on the list. It's just his guns kind of put him low compared to his gadget. Next we have Pulse, and the only reason I'm iffy about Pulse is his guns. The shotgun, I told you, this is my least favorite shotgun, the American shotgun. And I'm not a fan of this ump, but it's a good gun, but I'm just not a fan of it. Good pistol. Don't mess with 5.7. 45, way to go. Nitro Cell is definitely the way to go on Pulse. And Pulse's gadget, I'm sure you all know what Pulse does by now. It's this heartbeat scanner that you can see enemies through walls. And he's good. He's not my playstyle, which is why I kind of put him lower on the good list. But if you kind of like roaming-ish, not like Ella Cav level roaming, but roaming to the point of finding the enemy and informing your team of their position, or just playing the room and informing the team of your position, of the enemy's position, he's a good op for that. But I think his gadget can kind of sometimes hinder his performance in battle, switching between the gadget and his guns. And that's kind of why I put him just lower on this list in the good category. While he's still a good operator to choose, I wouldn't necessarily say he's going to be my first pick. Next on my list is Mozzie, and I'm all over the place with Mozzie. Well, I think his guns are really solid, along with his secondaries. His gadget, well, I think it's a good idea. It's not a drone denial gadget. I think a lot of people look at it as, I gotta get the drones and stop them from finding the room. The problem with that is you don't have enough gadgets to stop all of the drones. Like, you just can't do that. It's not realistic. So people try to use them to stop the drones from coming into the room, and then they just leave the drones on the floor. They leave them in the middle of the hallways. They just leave them there. They're not using them as cameras, which is how I think they should be used. They should be used as Maestros, Valkyries. They should be used as mobile cameras, not just sit left in the hallway. And that's how I'm seeing a lot of players play as Mozzie. And I think if people played him right, played him the way I think is right anyways, I think he'd be a lot higher on my list. But just from seeing people play the way they play him, it's kind of lowered his ranking on this list for me. Alright guys, so with Frost we're hitting top 10 in category. And this was much easier than the attackers, but it was still pretty hard to rank these defenders. And Frost was actually one of the easier ones for me to rank. Gun isn't my favorite, that's why she's on the lower half of the good operators. But her gadget is kind of where she shines. It's strong, it's reliable, but my problem with it is just the it's kind of like Kapkan. You gotta know your placements. People know there's a Frost, they're gonna be looking out for those Frost traps. You gotta just be really smart with your placements on these Frost traps, and that would push her even higher on the list for me, is if you're a great Frost. So next we got Cav, and Cav is the complete opposite style of my playstyle, but I can, I acknowledge good operator. And even though she got nerfed recently, I still think her silent step combined with her 99 damage pistol when at close range just makes her a great operator for roaming, kind of taking out the attackers one by one. I mean, there's not much to say here. She's just great at what she does. She doesn't do much else. She's not a good anchor. She's good at roaming and taking out the attackers one by one. She's great at it. That's what you gotta use her for. If you do that, you're gonna do great. So, how I talked about Rook and Doc ranking them earlier, and Rook is much higher on this list than Doc if you actually look at the rundown. And the reason is because of what I said earlier with just his armor. It's the same exact guns as Doc. Don't run the P90, run the MP5. The revolver's pretty good. I like the pistol, and then the portable shield. Same exact weapons gadget, but just his primary gadget of the armor. Putting that down and everyone getting that armor and not risking the chance of you dying and nobody getting your Doc heal is why Rook is just so much higher on this list. Next up is Valkyrie. And Valkyrie, they don't have her guns on here, no. Her guns are solid. Her shotgun's solid. Her SMG is solid. Her pistol, the Desert Eagle, solid. All solid guns. And her gadget, just as solid. It's nothing spectacular. Her guns are nothing spectacular. It's all just solid. Her cameras just really help you get line of sights that you can't get with the default cameras. And they can really help you with intel and kind of flanking the attackers, as well as knowing how to anchor and hold the room against the attacker. I think that what puts her so high on this list is just she's an intel operator, and that's what the game's all about. Next we got Maestro, and Maestro and Valkyrie were actually really difficult to place next to each other. And with Maestro, the only reason I placed him higher than Cav is because I believe Cav has the better guns, but Maestro's ability, Maestro's gadget, just makes him makes up for places where his guns kind of lack. While his LMG is pretty good, they nerfed it recently. It has more recoil now. It's still pretty good, but his gadget is bulletproof and it can damage the attackers. So I really think that helps him out as far as ranking. Next is Legion. Legion is kind of just one of those all-around operators. I don't have his guns listed on here, but SMG, his shotgun, his secondaries, everything's just great all around. Everything runs smooth. It's good for killing. Just great guns. His gadget is another one of those things that is just great all around. He has so many of them, and they're so hard to counter. They're so hard to counter. That's what makes him kind of just great. It's hard to counter his gadget. His guns are good. It's going to slow down the attackers. It's going to hurt the attackers. It's just great for keeping the attackers off and slowing them down, which leads to a win on defense. Next is Mew, and I really like Mew. I think his MP5 is just a solid gun. And his shotgun, again, my favorite shotgun in the game. I've said that like a whole bunch of times now, but I just like the shotgun a lot. His pistols, the SAS pistols are great. They're solid hitting guns, and his mute's kind of the Kaid, but it mutes instead of electrifies, and it's nothing special. It's not flashy. Gets the job done. It keeps them out, and at the end of the day, if you're an anchor, that's what you want to do. You want to keep the attackers out. Next we have Ella, and if you're looking at Ella here, she's great. Her guns are great. Her SMG's solid. She's a 3-speed. Lets her move around real fast with that high rate of fire SMG and just destroy people. And her ice cream cones, her Grismount mines, people kind of tend to use them wrong. They put them on the inside of the objective, kind of hurt their teammates. If you put them out kind of towards the entrances of the building, you can use them as audible trip wires to know when the enemy is coming, and if you're good enough, kind of hit them with a hard flank when they set off those trip wires. So I think if you use Ella right, her guns and her ability really makes her a strong roamer on defense. Next up we have Yeager, and I know a lot of people would have probably put him a little bit lower after his loss of the ACOG, but I just think his gun's solid. It's only assault rifle on defense, and just that gives it such a range that no other gun has, that it allows him to just hold these long angles that nobody else can hold, and it really helps hold down the fort on defense. Along with his gadget is kind of just useful for knowing that you're going to be safe in the room from any kind of projectiles, and that kind of just leads to keeping the room safe and knowing that you're always going to be protected and you're always going to have a longer range defender with Yeager. And last but definitely not least, we have my favorite Mira. I play her as a hard anchor. You don't leave the room. Her vector is insane. Such a high rate of fire. Well, it does have the lower mag count, but such that high rate of fire which you absolutely shred enemies. She has a secondary shotgun which you can run, but I don't suggest it. I run the pistol that she has. She has a couple of secondary gadgets that are good too, but her black mirror, her primary gadget, this thing just gives you so much intel playing as an anchor, gives you so much information from inside of the room from a safe spot. As long as you take out those Twitch drones, it's so safe behind these things. And while they're not necessarily gonna, be used to open and get kills with most of the time, they're just gonna be used for intel. They are just great sources of that intel, and this is kind of why I put Mira at the very top of my list. She's my go-to pick on defense. I think you should try her out if you haven't already. Alright guys, so I'll just kind of reiterate what I said in my attackers video. This is my opinion, but I have now ranked all of these, every single attacker, every single defender that is out year 4, season 1. And I'm not going to do this every single season. At the end of year 4, I'll do a ranking of either just the new operators or maybe all of them re-ranked with the new operators ranked in. I don't know, that sounds like I don't know, we'll see how it goes at the end of year 4, and I'll show you guys my listing right here if you guys just wanted to see on this list. Again, my ranking. Here's my ranking right here, worst at the bottom to best at the top. Like my attackers video, you can ignore this. Didn't really use this at all, any of these. And I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you guys on the next one.